Hello there and welcome back to my boat shed. My name is Panu and I am building this 15-meter liveaboard cruising sailboat here in Finland. It's gonna be a little bit of a special boat. It's gonna have double keels, rotating, freestanding, carbon masts and deck saloon and all that kind of stuff. So stay tuned. In previous video we did that stern assembly you can see behind there. And before we can start actually putting those things on its place, we need to start fixing the frames into the boat. And before we can do that, we need to check the measurements of the heights and placements for these frames. I already have been starting that process by checking a little bit of the details and how they sit with the laser level. And I think I mentioned in a few videos back that I don't have appropriate markings for all the frames. And that has been a little bit of a problem because, yeah, the waterline marker is quite important when you're doing a boat. However, what I didn't remember back then is that I did one tiny detail for all the frames, and let's check that first. And that is this slot right here. Quite a long time ago, maybe 2 years ago, I was planning the boat a little bit more in detail, and it came to mind that this kind of boat should have some kind of rub rail. My current boat has one with the rubber dampening thing all around the boat, and that is so awesome feature on a boat. You really don't need to worry about any piers or any kind of obstacles. You can just push the boat against those. And being a large boat like this and me navigating it mostly by myself, I really would like to have a rub rail of some sort. And these slots are for that rub rail. I'm not sure if I'm gonna use these, but they mark the position of the rub rail, and maybe I'll do some kind of reinforcement to all of this. But how this is connected to this task ahead is that this rub rail feature is in all of the frames, and it is exactly at the same level in all of them. So I can actually use this mark to match the height of these frames all around the boat. And that is super nice because now I don't actually need to do any additional pieces up there to be able to mark the waterline. So I can just put these frames in level with these markers and then use the laser to do whatever marks I need later up there. So that is great. I can use those slots as references, but I want to do this a little bit in organized way. So I think I'm gonna pick one of these frames as a reference frame and level that first and then copy the level to all of the rest of the frames. And I've decided to use the frame 3 here as a reference frame just because it sits quite well in here. It's on pretty good spot. I can see from here to all of the rest of the frames, I think. The problem, however, is that this particular frame doesn't have the waterline marker. And I actually figure out where that came from. It was because there was these mold pieces in here, and in some of them those kind of went over the markers I had in the frame. So that was kind of unfortunate mistake. But anyway, I have already done program for making a measurement piece for this frame. It will go into these holes in there and be the basically same shape as this frame surface here, but it will have those markers for the waterline and also the lower mark for a future reference line when making things inside the boat. So 2 markers will be placed here, and I think we're gonna start by cutting that piece with the CNC. Okay, here is the measurement piece cut with the CNC. I put it in those holes and it aligns perfectly. And here is the mark for the waterline, and here is the lower marker that is, I think it's 1 meter or something below the waterline, or above in this case. Now I'm gonna take this off from here and put it on the other side and make same markings to the other side, of course. And that way we have all the marks in this frame 3. So I now mark the reference line here and put the laser so that I can see it through the mold here. And the thickness of this laser beam is about 1 millimeter. And here you can barely see the line. And over there is just in the middle of the line. So I would say there's a 0.5 millimeter difference on these sides. And that's within my tolerances. So that's good, and now I'm pretty sure that this frame 3 is on right position. And yeah, now I can use this as a reference for everything else. However, there is another thing we need to check, and that is the straightness in this direction. So there is a possibility that these frames are a little bit bent in some way, not much, but a little bit, and I want to check that eventually as well. But now it's too late for do anything else today, so that's gonna be task for tomorrow. It's a little bit cold here as well. It's the next day and I kind of decided I'm gonna glue this frame in today, which is exciting and at the same time it's terrifying because there's no going back. But before I do anything, I want to check that the frame is on right location and it is straight. So I'm not sure if you can see from the camera, but I have now put the laser here in the bottom to align with the place where this frame needs to go. And it's also aligned top there, so it should be completely straight vertical line here. And as you can maybe see, the line kind of hits the frame here just a tiny bit in this area. And if I keep it still here and pull a little bit from the frame, you can see that it flexes a little bit. So there's a just tiny fraction of bending in this frame. And I really don't think that's too much of a problem because I can quite easily kind of flex this just a little bit. And same thing with the other side. So there's a little bit of flex, a little bit of curvature in this direction. And I also bought some long screws, so I'm gonna drill a hole here into the side wall here so that the bottom of the frame will stay and align where it should go when the glue is drying. So that's kind of the idea. I'm still gonna check the level of this bottom here and the level of these markers before I do anything, because I just wanna make sure that this frame will go exactly where it needs to go. So I'm probably gonna check this marker as well on the both sides. So yeah, it looks very good. I'm not really concerned, but I just want to make extra good job with this first frame that will go in. Then one more thing I want to do, I want to round this corner back here before I glue this in, because it's hard to reach with the router when the frame is on its place. So I'm gonna lift this off and round this corner, because this will have eventually fiberglass coating on it, so it can go around this corner more easily when it's rounded. Let's play with laser a little bit and then start rounding, and then clean everything up, sand a little bit to make sure that we have a very good bond, and then mix some epoxy. Alright, now this frame is on its position. There's a screw holding it on its place. I have the laser in the front there to mark the level. There's a little bit of a gap down here just to balance it on its place, and it's sitting on the mold up there, so it should be good. And I also rounded this edge now, so it will be good to put the fiberglass on it eventually. And I don't think there's anything else to really do for this before gluing it up. Now I just need to mix some epoxy, and this time I think I'm gonna do it in the way that everybody else does it. So putting some unthickened epoxy for all the surfaces there, and then fill the whole thing with thickened epoxy. And I think it's gonna have to be quite thick to be able to fill all the gaps between there. So yeah, I think I now get this screw off from both sides, take it off and mix some epoxy. It is around 10 degrees, a little bit less here. So I'm gonna use fast hardener for this. It shouldn't take that long to spread it in there, and we'll see. It's not gonna be better than this. I think it's as perfect as I ever gonna be able to get it. So let's now do this. I'm very excited and at the same time very nervous, because there is no going back after this. Okay, it's done. This frame is now glued in, and now it can secure by itself. And yeah, it doesn't look like much, but I think this is a huge milestone again in this project. This is now going to be a permanent piece of the boat, which is absolutely mind-blowing actually. So yeah, it went quite well. I thought first that I mixed way too much epoxy. It felt like there is for 3 frames, but actually it took quite a lot to fill that void between there. So maybe there was like a 50 grams extra, but I got nice squeeze out there everywhere and now it should be filled. And I checked the level with the laser. It has been the laser over there all the time. So now it's completely leveled as well. Now the only thing that is in mind is the small bending of this frame in this direction. But I kind of decided that I'm not just gonna care about that. The bending is so small that the shape of this boat with this sanding of this surface that creates much more variation than the small bend in this frame. So I'm gonna leave that be and we'll get back into taking care of that later, because essentially it's now just fixed here in the bottom and that upper end can bend and move quite freely still. So yeah, we can take care of that and I just don't think that matters anything. And that said, I think it's gonna be enough for this video already. As for the next video, I think now when we have this reference frame on its place, we can start figuring out the last 2 frames over there and start fixing the stern assembly over there. So that's gonna be interesting and challenging, so stay tuned for that. And of course, the rest of the frames are starting to go in as well. I hope in next couple of weeks I can order those mast steps, what I have talking about a long time. So there is also that stuff that is gonna happen very near future. A lot of things to do. If you want to support this channel, of course, the free way is to subscribe to the channel and give me a like, that helps a lot. And if you want to support even more making these videos and making this boat, please go and check the Patreon page as well. It makes a huge difference for me to able to put some time into making these videos and this boat. And I really appreciate everyone who has supported me so far. Thank you so much. We'll see you later. Bye bye.